Hello, my name is Natuk Olsen and I'm a PhD student, and my PhD is about the meaning of Kalaalimernit, which is Greenlandic food, related to the cultural identity and changes. And here I look at the changes within the climate, but also the changes in the society. Unfortunately, I could not be there physically due to a new title and a new job at the government of Greenland. Therefore, we make it through this video instead. And I hope you will enjoy the next 15 minutes. Yeah, the meaning of food is central. The meaning of food is something that is central to everybody. We cannot survive without food. Therefore, I am very interested in studying how food is actually culturally linked, and also how we use it as an identity marker. And those are the things that are part of my PhD. And my approach is that food is not just about nourishment, but it's also about education, it's about norms, and it's about customs, and it's about identity. And one of the things that I look at in my PhD is how the link between personhood, identity, and food is related. But also how human and environment is related to each other, and how human and animals are related. And actually, in the meaning of Kalaalimernit, or the meaning of the word Kalaalimernit, is actually connecting all those things. Because Kalaalimernit means a piece of a Greenlander. And then we have another word for the food from Greenland, which is called Illumina, which actually means a piece of an ancestor. Today, Inuk is a word which is used for only human livings. But our ancestors used to use it for all kind of livings. For the animals, for the plants, for the humans. None of it was divided as it is today. And that also links how our ancestors have related to the animals and to the nature. They were part of it and not separated from it. But those kind of thoughts started to be introduced with Christianity. And I also would like to tell about how I actually got the idea to write about Kalaalimernit. Because in an age of 30, I realized that I've been using the word Kalaalimernit without realizing what it actually means. A piece of a Greenlander. We actually consume our identity. And much of our identity comes from the sea mammals, which is something that is very central to the work in NAMMCO. And what is also interesting within, especially these years, is that our ancestors had a sustainable approach to food. For example, in North Greenland, they never hunted small seals because they only wanted to hunt seals which had the opportunity to reproduce themselves. But then there's also the link between Kalaalimernit and identity. Because every time we consume food, every time we drink something, we actually consume both to give energy to the body, but also to give energy to our identity, to tell who we are for ourselves, but also to others. And what is also interesting within the science of food is that you can also look at the taste, and taste has a culture. It's linked to culture, it's linked to surroundings, and it's linked to environment. So what you are taught to like to consume is something that is that you get from the culture where you grew up. But it's also interesting because actually it already starts while you are in your 6th month pregnancy, where the development of taste has been fully developed, which means that what your mother has been eating or consumed is normally what you attract to want to consume as well. But then when you look at the science of taste and the science of the human senses, it's also culturally related. From a Western perspective, you have these 5 senses. It's divided into 5. But historically, it's been divided into many others. And especially here in the Inuit society of Greenland, it is within food, it's much related to what is edible, what is not edible. And it's also quite a unique time that we live in, because you can actually decide yourself which kind of identity you want to be part of, which also means you can choose yourself what you would like to consume, and in that way digest the identity you want to be part of. And within consuming Kalaalimernit, it's very much about, what I realized during my interviews is that it's much about reconciling past, present, and the future. It's about sensing your ancestors. It's about sensing and being nature. And it's about celebrating and appreciating the animals which has been hunted. And one of the very first Greenlandic professor, Robert Petersen, once said, "What gives strength is the inua of the animal." It's not the energy, but it's the inua which is in a small part. For example, our ancestors believed in that if you ate the leg of our caribou, you will get that strength that part of the animal had, which meant it will give you strength to your legs, and you would be able to run faster. And also, it's also related to that hunting is actually about becoming the animal. Because our ancestors believed in that the soul, which is called Dalner in Greenlandic, has been various kind of animals and various kind of humans. They believed in that you went from being specific kind of animals to becoming a human, to go back to being a dog or a plant or a flower, a rock. And that link in between the past and the present is very much something that is actually in us. And also they believed in that what we hunt and what we catch is our ancestors, and therefore you need to thank them. So what is edible? What is edible today? There are various kind of whales, seals, caribous, musk ox, and various kind of birds, seabirds, land birds. And in previous time, seagulls, foxes, and eagles, they were all part of the edible part, but those are not anymore. And this is also how societal change has an impact on what is considered as edible. And today, this is about sea mammals. And actually, the Inuit of Greenland are coast people, which means that most of them lives off the coast. And also, they believed in that when you die, the soul wishes to go to the sea and not to the heaven, because there you have more animals, and there you have the certainty of survival is bigger than if you live off the land-based. But when you look at Greenland, it's quite interesting, because the further north you go, the more you live of the sea. Then when you go further down to the south, it's much more about the land-based survival, and also vegetable-wise, they're very different. But what is interesting is that even though that you live in the most most northern part of Greenland, you still get the nutrients that and the vitamins that normally comes from plants. The animals come with them, and they come at the time where you need those specific vitamins at the specific time. And what is also interesting that in from an ancestor or historical perspective is that actually you could wound a whale and then you would do it for another community which will find the whale. And today we have specific rules within hunting the big marine mammals, and those are based on European customs, but where they are adapted somehow to the Inuit way of hunting marine mammals. And today we also see that, especially in Europe, there are many seals at the moment on the coasts, but the seals are not consumed anymore, which means that the ecosystem somehow is not natural anymore. But the food chain is something that is today controlled by the humans. So if there are too many seals, then you somehow try to put the number of them down instead of let it be all natural as our ancestors used to do it. But about tasting the environment, it's about consuming it raw, frozen, boiled, fermented, fried, dried, or smoked. The climate and the environment gives the taste of what is consumed here in Greenland, especially with the traditional kind of Kalaalimernit. And it's quite interesting because actually those ways of looking at it from an anthropological perspective, it's quite interesting because it has a very modest transformations from it goes from being part of the nature to be to be culture and then become something that you consume, which is very different from, especially from a more Western perspective, where you somehow try to like divide the link between the living animal to being consumed. So there are two different kind of discourses, which is within Kalaalimernit. There's the traditional discourse and then there is the gastronomic, and they both have very different kind of approaches, but it's with use of the local commodities, animals, fish and stuff. The gastronomic has a global inspired approach, and it's a way of, it's used to show global orientation, and it's about societal development as well, while the traditional discourse is based on traditional knowledge and very much family inspired, so all families dry their fish in their own way. And it's a way to connect with the ancestors, and it's based on wild animals. And what is interesting today is that both discourses are very much used today in Greenland, and it has actually made it very popular to be self-sufficient in and also being able to go hunting and still use those two approaches. But if you look at it globally, food legislation in Greenland is up to interpretation. But if you look at it, you actually, the society of Greenland has the right to be able to hunt, to be able to eat the food that they can get from the surroundings. But the legislation within, especially within Greenlandic food, is challenged due to the law which is used at the moment. As one of my informants said, "Kukukua ayuga ayua narami," which means the chicken always wins. And what he meant with this was that you can go into the local food market, you can put 1,000 chickens, as he said, and that would not be illegal. But if he goes hunting on seabirds and take one into one of those places, officially it's illegal due to the law. But the law has been, how do you say it, they have made some some ways that you can still do that, but officially it's prohibited. Which also means that especially the traditional kind of Kalaalimernit is somehow criminalized. And you can see that the cultural approach to food is not adapted within the law. Therefore, it is challenged in various kind of ways today. And it has become, food in Greenland has become a topic for the right of being able to consume what your ancestors lived off in harsh winter times. But it has also become a topic within showing somehow of need of independence. And my favorite food is givia, which is fermented little ox which are made in Rana, where I grew up. And beside that, it's Natuk. Therefore, I have this last picture of a t-shirt which you can buy in Greenland, which says "I love Natuk," which is whale skin. Thank you.